Welcome back, pod people. Today, my guest is Dustin Mattson, the director and, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe writer and star of both Tapehead and Tapehead, The Return of Jacob Cobb.
Yes.
Tapehead is I don't want to call it a short film because it's more than, the 15 minutes you would expect from a short film. But I don't want to call it a full feature-length film either because it's not like an hour and a half long. It's 45 minutes long. So
Right.
It's the kind of thing that you could watch on YouTube during your lunch break. It's a great, fun slasher film that really draws me back to things of, like, I want to say the 80s and 90s. Reminds me a lot of trauma films, things things like The Toxic Avenger, stuff like that, where it's a graphic horror, draws a lot of inspiration, I'm guessing, from comic books as well as horror films of that era, and pulls it all together to make what is obviously a labor of love that is, clearly devoted to the VHS era of horror movies.
Absolutely.
And it's just great. And so I believe you told me earlier that this is not just like a micro budget movie. This is no budget at all.
Yeah, we had like no money.
So tell me about that. Like, because I watched this and it seems clear that you have special effects, you have multiple camera angles, you have some like buckets of blood. There's clearly been a lot of work put into this. So tell us a bit about how you managed to get that done on no budget.
Sure. So the way that it all started, originally on our YouTube channel, which is 3B Video, our whole shtick is we're two older guys who run a video store, and no one rents videos anymore. So we're just stuck in this store and we kind of hate life. It's very Clerks-esque. And but probably about 4 years ago, I'd say, we started kicking around the idea of doing an animated series because we keep getting older. We keep losing our hair. We keep getting gray hair. And we're like, as a cartoon, we can stay buff and, just do voice acting. So we were going to do a cartoon series called Roger and Evil's Video Store Adventures. And Tapehead was going to be the villain. Very Scooby-Doo, but like adult. And it just, as time went on, it became painfully obvious that it was going to cost way too much money to do an entire season of a cartoon. So we kind of sat around, me, my partner on YouTube, which is Evil Dead Inks, and the other creative person involved in this, VHS Mikey, who has a YouTube channel as well. And we said, well, what if we take this entire season of this cartoon and just take the best stupid gags of each episode and kind of condense it and turn it into like a short movie. And we were all kind of on board and we're like, sure, we can do that. And so we set out to have Mikey come visit for 4 days. We shot over 4 days. So I mean, it was a no budget film. That is 100% for sure. But I had maybe 6 months of prep time. So I had, my props, and I could gather up my effects artist and be like, hey, can you do this? Is it going to cost me anything to have you do this or whatever? And we all just came together. I think there was 12, maybe 13 of us in total. And we just worked from, 16, 17-hour days, 4 days in a row, and made this silly slapstick thing.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense to me. Or at least most of that makes sense to me because you say, you have no budget, you're building this together. And a lot of the special effects are things like, buckets of blood, which is just, corn syrup and red food dye, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
But you also had some pretty impressive, when when the sex worker gets impaled by the killer and gets her guts pulled out, those guts looked pretty amazing. Like
Thank you.
that was really cool. And so, like, how did you do that on no budget?
Okay, so a lot of the silicone stuff comes from a company called Composite FX. I believe they're out of California, and this is stuff that I've just had, laying around, and uh, things like that that we use for Halloween or whatever. And so for the gut punch, um, I had a mannequin. There's a male mannequin that I always dress up like Michael Myers, and I said, well, I'm just going to take this Dremel and cut a giant hole in the chest, So I cut a giant hole in the chest and then put the girl's wardrobe on it and, punched into it and yanked out the guts from inside the, $20 mannequin or whatever from Amazon.
Ah, fantastic. I'm gonna have to ask you to send me a link to that composite effects because, like, when I Google it, I'm just finding some helicopter company, which I don't think is the same thing you're
It is.
referring to.
No, so abbreviated, it'd just be CFX,
All
and they
right.
are amazing. It's an amazing company, and they've been nothing but just so gracious with everything they've done for us because with this new Tapehead movie, they're responsible for the look of Tapehead, and everything is custom, including like the paint job and the way that he's rotten and stuff in this new movie. That's all them. They did all that for me. So
That's fantastic. Yeah. So I haven't seen the new Tapehead movie, so I can't really comment or ask questions about it, but I'm very eager to see it, when it comes out. I believe the expected release date is June 2023. Is that what you
yeah,
said?
yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere around there because we just wrapped last weekend, and we cut together a trailer. We spent like this whole week like cherry picking our favorite stuff to not give anything away, and put the trailer on YouTube. And in less than 24 hours, it had over 1,000 views. So it's obviously doing.
Good job.
I mean,
Congratulations.
we're not Art the Clown or anything by that means, but we're trying really hard to carve a little spot in the horror genre.
Yeah. So actually, that's a really interesting comparison, comparing it to Art the Clown from the Terrifier franchise,
Hmm.
obviously. So something that I found really important about Art the Clown is that in his early portrayals, he was performed by Mike Gianelli, and then in his later performances, which is to say the movie entitled Terrifier,
Right,
he was performed by David Howard Thornton.
right.
And um, no offense to Mike Gianelli, but his performance was, you know, kind of normal, whereas David Howard Thornton's performance was astonishing. Like
Yeah. Oh, he's amazing.
that was one of the best performances of a horror antagonist that I've ever seen in my entire life. Like,
Absolutely.
as someone who is a fan of the art of clowning and a fan of specifically the art of mime, the use of that by that actor really blew me away. And so, as the director, what is it that you really wanted out of the actor who portrayed Tapehead? Like, what did you want to convey to the audience? Are you looking for humor? Are you looking for like people being scared? Are you looking for people being disgusted? What sort of reactions do you want the audience to have?
That's a good question. So in the first movie, we really didn't. I mean, I say I'm a director very loosely with making that first film because it was all of us collectively being like, "What about this? What about this? What about this?" And just kind of winging it and making it happen. When it came to this new film, the actor who plays Tapehead, his name is Dylan Weeks, and he is amazing. He's a tank of a human being, and he would come over and we would try different things. He'd put the costume on, and you know, he was a little stiff at first, and just kind of trying to find his rhythm as this character. And I said, "You're a shark. You know, you you cannot stop. you see a target and you're on a target and you're out for blood. And so we kind of were experimenting with the kills in this new film and how he's gonna do things. And we would try them one way, and if you watch the first film, you see that the kills happen pretty quickly, because we didn't know what we were doing. So a lot of the stuff is like, oh, punched in the stomach, dead, or whatever, a disc thrown at you, you're dead, or whatever. And in this new movie, it was like, I want it to hurt. I want it to be, because death in real life is not like, ooh, just like something silly and over. Like, it's painful, it's hard to watch. So we tried really hard to make the characters in this movie very likable. And so when he's hurting them, it like we had people on our cast and crew behind the camera watching him perform some of these death scenes, and they would start crying. They would be like, man, that sucks, and as soon as he
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but like,
you're
I
fine.
just want to say that's fantastic. Like,
Right.
something that I've brought up over and over again on this podcast is how in a horror movie, to make a really successful, like emotionally successful horror movie, the most important thing is to get the audience to have strong emotions about the core characters.
Mhm.
And those emotions can be positive, where we like love them and want them to survive, or they can be negative, where we hate them and we want them to die.
Right, exactly.
And so the fact that for your next movie, you're really trying to get the audience. Sorry, motorcycle driving past me.
No problem.
The fact that in your next movie you're looking to get the audience to really love the characters makes me very happy. I'm really looking forward to seeing that, because that shows me that you as a director really understand what is important about this genre.
Yeah.
And, so like when I watched this movie, it was clear to me, I say movie, like short film. Again, we still don't have a great word for it.
Right.
But when I watched the original Tapehead film, it seemed clear to me that this was a passion project made by people who love this kind of film and were brought. I say film, this kind of video, and were brought up on VHS videos, and so the fact that you clearly understand the underlying filmmaking techniques makes me very confident and happy and excited to see the next thing that you make.
I really appreciate that, man. It was important to me, there's thousands of slashers out there, right? And we've all been like, we're all born and bred and bathed in this blood of these slasher films, and everyone has like what they consider their favorite slasher, or their tropes that they like, the tropes that they dislike. And for me, and I don't know how it is for you or for your listeners, but as a kid growing up, I felt like there's nothing better than Friday the 13th Part 4. I feel like that is the quintessential slasher film. All of those characters, for the most part, are extremely likable, and you could watch an hour and a half film of them trying to get laid at a lake house, and it would be like Meatballs or something. It's like, there's a fun, goofy kid running around, and
That's fair.
It's all of them are likable, and the best part about it is not a single one of them know that they are in imminent danger. None of them know they're in danger. They're just having a good time. There's no harbinger going, you shouldn't go to that lake, like the other movies or whatever. It's all just, they're having fun and they're getting picked off. And then eventually it comes down to like the very small core group, and the terror is real. The threat of death is real. And so I wanted to do that with this movie, be very cautious and not have a finger waggling going, don't go down that road. That road is cursed. I didn't want that. I wanted likable. There's a young kid in our movie. It was my son who plays one of the leads, and You know, he really wanted to get into acting, and I said, if I write this, will you do it? And he said, sure. So he's going to be 13, and he's kind of my ode to Tommy Jarvis, a young kid in this movie. And
Sure.
but every character, I felt it was very important to make them, you know, real. They're not all good or all bad, or I don't just carry around a football and I'm a jock. You know, everyone is kind of gray. There's no one who's, you know, purely good or purely evil. Everyone has
Sure.
like shitty aspects to them or good aspects to them. So
Yeah, so it sounds like you're focused more on developing well-rounded characters rather than like paying attention to uh, how the audience might react to them.
mhm.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Okay.
wanted, you know, it's obvious too when you watch later entries in like the Halloween franchise or the Friday the 13th franchise, or obviously the Elm Street franchise, because he became a, you know, he's pajamas by the fifth entry. But like, um,
Which one is number 5 in
that's a Dream Child. But like,
Uh,
you know, by
okay,
that
okay.
time they're complete pop culture icons, and the butts are in the seats to watch them kill people. But the early entries in the franchise is, oh man, I'm ready to get scared. You know, I want to get scared. I want to watch, you know, someone do battle with a villain, and you know, I want to catch a glimpse of some boobs or whatever. But like by the later entries, it's all slapstick and silly, and I really wanted to avoid. My best analogy with these movies is when I made the first Tapehead, I said I wanted to make Evil Dead, but I fucked around and made Evil Dead 2. And now I'm making my Evil Dead, like, because I want it to be more serious.
Okay, that's interesting because like out of all of the Sam Raimi, I'm not sure what the word to use is. It's not movies, it's not films, maybe videos is the right word to use. The one that Tapehead reminded me the most of is Within the Woods. Are you familiar with that one?
Oh yeah, which is what he used to gain the funding to make Evil Dead, and which is
Exactly.
and that's essentially also I use that as a reference too when people say, "So is this new Tapehead a sequel?" I said, "No, it's technically Tapehead: The Return of Jacob Cobb is technically Tapehead 1. Like the previous Tapehead was our Within the Woods. It was us seeing, can we do this? Are we competent? Will people back us? You know, because
Yeah.
we did an Indiegogo and we set our goal for 20 grand, and we were like, if we make 20 grand, all bets are off with what we can do. Like
Oh
I
man, if I had known about this back when you were running that, I absolutely would have pledged. But unfortunately, I just learned
right,
about this literally earlier today.
it's all
So
good, man. And so yeah, and as a result of my poor marketing and pushing my Indiegogo, we crashed and burned and we failed miserably, and we earned a little over 6 grand, and then I was able to kind of scrape a little bit more money together, and the overall budget for this feature is just a hair over 7K. And with what we were able to put on
oh
camera,
wow,
it blows my mind. And
yeah,
like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, I know what we have and I can't wait for people to know what we have.
that's amazing, man. I have so many things I want to say about like just arguing with you about what the best Friday the 13th film is. It's number 6.
Hey,
Uh,
Jay, that's the guy who plays Tapehead, Dylan Weeks. That's his absolute favorite. He loves CJ Graham. There's nothing wrong with part 6 for sure.
yeah. Um, So this is very much what we would consider a micro budget film.
Mm-hmm.
And so given that, I have like a bunch of production questions for you. So
Sure.
the first one, of course, is what camera did you use to film this?
That's a good question. Also, okay, so my wife in her everyday life, like what she does for a job is she's a professional photographer. And
Oh,
so
wow.
she shoots on a Canon 80D, I think. I'm not sure. But that's you know, that's what we use. We use her Canon and her 18 to 35s and her 85 millimeters and everything. We use, you know, all of her gear I think that's the camera, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like the Canon 80D is a solid, I think like one or two generations ago, DSLR. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it's just a, DSLR camera. And it was one of those things where, we had people like, dude, buy a new camera, buy this, buy that. And that's a big mistake that a lot of people make. I think, people want to go rent a Red or, whatever,
yeah,
whatever the nicest, newest, most tech savvy, cool thing is out there. And they,
Miri, Amiflex, this sort of
yeah,
thing.
you want
Yeah.
to you want to rent this camera and have no eye. You don't know what you're doing. And, you can get a solid performance out of what you have. You could shoot. Look at Unsane. They filmed that on an iPhone, and it's amazing, right?
Really? I did
Yeah,
not know that was filmed on an iPhone.
that's one of those movies. Whenever someone goes, "Well, why don't you buy a better camera?" and I go, "Did you see Unsane?" Because that's why. Like, because you can blow people's socks off with like minimal equipment. And that's even more impressive, I think, when you rock someone when they're like, "How'd you shoot this?" Well, on a DSLR. What kind of lights did you use? A couple of Luxios and whatever, Newers.
Yeah, the movie that I've been going with to, talk about that kind of thing is Tangerine, which
Hmm.
was shot in 2015 on uh, an iPhone 5S.
Right,
And so, I mean, obviously, so of course, it was not shot like it wasn't like they just pulled it out of their pocket and held it like this.
right.
They used a mount that they built and they put lenses on it, but still, like the total budget of all of those lenses, the mount and everything was still significantly below what it would have been to just rent a Red for the entire production schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've
Yeah.
worked on things where people rent ridiculously nice cameras, um, and they hire a really nice DP who knows what they're doing, and you got 60 people, and the image is flat and boring, and that's kind of as nice as whatever equipment you have. I'm a sucker for Italian horror film lighting, so I will not
I
shoot a
can
boring.
love that stuff myself.
There will be no boring frames. Like if you saw the first Tapehead, like, oh, everything blue equals night. Like that's the 80s mantra of horror is blue is nighttime.
You say 80s, but like that same sort of effect was used 60 years earlier in the 1920s. I don't know if
Right.
you're particularly familiar with early black and white silent films, but
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah. So for anyone in our audience who's not already familiar with this, there was very much a thing where um, it would be a black and white film, but they would literally slide a colored cell in
Hmm.
front of different scenes to indicate different things about them, like
Yeah,
blue to indicate this scene takes place at night, red to indicate everyone's angry in this
yeah.
scene.
Yellow, they're sick. Whatever. Cabinet of Dr.
Exactly.
Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is an extremely fantastic example of use of shadows, which a lot of those shadows are painted, which is phenomenal. Like the way that
Love that
that
movie.
that these filmmakers use these clever workarounds, and that stuff blows my mind, and it's not utilized enough today. And so, we do this thing in Tapehead, in both Tapeheads actually, whenever Tapehead is near or there's a threat of danger, the color green comes into play. Tapehead brings the color green fog, whatever, green light is everywhere. But yeah, blue for nighttime. But yeah, a lot of blue and reds and greens and whatever neon colors that I can spew out, I'm spewing them out. Absolutely.
Oh, that's fantastic. Also, since our listeners can't see the visuals on this, you have some amazing like reds and purples going on in the background there. Is that caused by lights or just the color of the things you have behind you?
Oh no, yeah, I've got lights in here. I've got my lights set to some pink and some blue. Got all kinds of crazy stuff going on here in the video store.
Great. I've got a red shining on me and a blue in the background. And
Suspiria, man.
natural. Yes, I love Suspiria, and some natural color light coming in through the window. Um, I notice also that you've got a what looks like a really high quality mic set up in front of you. So tell me a little bit about like, so you've talked a bit about how you've got a low budget and you're using what you already have access to, but
Mhm.
also because your wife is already, a professional in this field, you already have access to some pretty high quality equipment. So tell us a bit about um if, assuming you didn't have access to any of that, uh if you could only grab one of those things, just like one microphone or one camera, or like you're wearing what looks like some pretty nice headphones, anything like that. If you were, suddenly the building that you're in caught fire and you could only grab one piece of equipment, what would you take with you?
Well, I can't make anything without a camera, so I would have to take my wife's camera. But I'm really partial to these stick lights that we found. The brand is Luxio, Luxceo. And they're relatively inexpensive. I think at the time they were maybe $45 a piece,
Ooh,
and RGB, and so you can go through a series of colors, and then you can do, they have brightness settings, and they're just battery operated. So you can film in the middle of nowhere and have light um, very easily, and the batteries last a really long time. And I think we have, what do we have now? I think we have 4 or 5 in our kit. um, I'm a very big fan of those, but assuming I didn't have any battery operated lights, the one thing I would take is my Jackery, which is a portable power station. I bought that because we are prone to a lot of tornadoes and bad storms in our area. So you
sure.
charge that thing up, but and then I can take it into the middle of nowhere and plug my fog machine, my lights into it, and I could probably get a solid 8 hours of performance out of all of my equipment running off of that battery. So
Fantastic. Um, that's pretty impressive, running off of a battery for that long, I gotta say. Um, yeah, that's a good endorsement. I'm gonna pick up one of these Lexio lights.
they are amazing. They are amazing. I would not steer you wrong. I, I swear by them. And they're tall and skinny, so you can hide them behind things if you need to illuminate a wall or, whatever's clever. And yeah, they last a long time. So,
Fantastic. So let's talk a little about actors.
mhm.
So, it strikes me that you are in a similar position to the people who made Friday the 13th, where the first movie that they made was made on like no budget. And
Mhm.
the people who played the villains, even for the first several Friday the 13th films, it was just, who can we find that we can put in the mask and do this. And the two movies that this really reminds me of are Friday the 13th Part 3, which is one of my favorite Friday the 13th movies. I'm
Mhm.
a contrarian, so I go 6, 3, and then 4, which is your favorite. Um, but the other series, or rather production company, that your work really reminds me of is Troma,
Mm.
who are an extremely indie, low budget film company making things very much outside of the standard established Hollywood machine. But their big thing that really set them apart is that despite being extremely low budget, they had amazing makeup and amazing special effects in terms of like blood and gore.
Yeah, very early. Yeah, early on, early trauma stuff is phenomenal.
Exactly. Yeah, like the Toxic Avenger, or really, there's so much. If
Mhm.
there's anyone listening to this who has not checked out the Trauma oeuvre. I recommend it because their stuff is just incredibly impressive for what you can accomplish on very low budget, just with a lot of passion.
Yeah.
And so, I would love if you could tell us a bit about how, like, given that you had, you know, no budget for this first movie, again, just tell us like a little bit of about the practicalities of producing that much blood and that much other things. Like, just tell us about that.
Okay. So when we say no budget, I want to preface that, I mean, you can go out and shoot something like this for no money, but I definitely lost my ass when it came to making this movie because all said and done was a little around, like, I've got a bank statement somewhere about 5 grand that we
Oh
ended up,
wow.
you
Oh
know, because you don't realize that, you know, with 16 people, they're going to eat 3 times a day. So you're feeding people, and, you know, gas. And if someone gets a speeding ticket, you feel like, well, you're here working with me, I'll front the bill or whatever. And lodging and things of that nature, even though we didn't really sleep. But yeah, as far as the practicality of that goes, it's really, um, it's all about penny pinching. You know, we would my wife and I would just we have this big jar, and anytime that someone would break a dollar, we just throw the change in this jar, and we let it build up for that like 6 months or whatever, leading up to shooting the movie, and then we, you know, uh, cashed it in, and we're like, okay, we can buy the blood stuff with this, or we can buy the prosthetic with this, or whatever. Or does Chelsea Juarez, our effects artist, does she have makeup already on hand? Does she have liquid latex? Does she have this? So basically, I pulled in every single favor I could and got a lot of stuff for free. But in the process of that, it was my first time working with a lot of these people, and they became my film family. And I think that's a very important thing too, is you find people who not only wear one hat but can wear several, and they're happy doing it for, you know, as little as a burrito and, you know, $10 a day or whatever it is, you know. And because then there's no egos on set, there's no attitude. It's all, Jesus, that was the best take ever. Let's do one more because that was amazing. You know, let's have some fun. Let's spray some more blood. Let's do this. Let's do that. And everyone's tired. Their feet hurt. You know, everything sucks. It's 1,000 degrees, but everyone's laughing and like just having a good time. And I think that's first and foremost the most important thing, because when I was in high school, I mean, you brought up trauma. When I was in high school, I
yeah.
wanted I wanted so bad to go to New Jersey and be like a PA or whatever for trauma. I thought that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna do that. And
Okay.
and I never did. And uh, you know, and then maybe in the past 10 years, my goal was I want to go and be a PA for Adam Green, who made the Hatchet films, because
I love those movies.
I've heard our Tapehead film compared to Hatchet meets Clerks, and I'm not mad at that. You know, that's
Oh, yeah. Okay. I can see the comparison. Yeah.
so so I'm totally cool with that. But I wanted so badly to be part of Adam Green's film family, and we've met Adam Green on a couple of separate occasions, and got to spend a couple of days with him actually, and kind of pick his brain. And he was like, I don't know why you want to join my film family. Like, I've amassed my film family. Like, we are doing our thing. Make your own film
Yeah.
family. You know, do your thing. Like,
Ah,
don't be a cog in my machine. Make your own machine. And
that
you
makes
know,
sense.
and so I owe a lot of like what I do to Adam Green and Joe Lynch, and you know, guys like that, Graydon Clark, a lot of like these kind of smaller filmmakers. And I've picked their brains on several occasions. And, you know, sometimes I get that imposter syndrome where I'm like, I don't know if I'm a director. I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And they're all like, trust me, you sit at the table. You're one of us. And it's like, it's almost enough to bring you to tears. Like, I grew up watching these films, and now I'm contributing to the genre. And now eventually there'll be some 10-year-old kid watching it going, if that moron can make a movie, so can I. And then it'll just, it'll continue. And that's the best thing I could hope for.
Yeah, really inspiring the next generation is a pretty impressive accomplishment. So that makes sense. Um, yeah, so you made quite a bit given your, restrictions. I want to hear how you made the Tapehead mask because, like, obviously the Tapehead, the fact that he's, the Tapehead, that's the core of the film
Mhm.
is the Tapehead, which is a very creative and evocative, post VHS thing that I think is positioned in a really interesting moment in time because, like, obviously you couldn't have had Tapehead in 1970 because tapes didn't exist, and it wouldn't have made sense to have Tapehead in the 80s because even the 90s because tapes were brand new. So why would you do this? They're just the
Right.
norm, and so it only makes sense now where tapes are this retro thing, and yet you've constructed this amazing iconic looking the tape embedded into the face of the character. So tell me a bit about how you came up with that idea and how you like physically constructed the tape head mask.
All right, so this is a fun story, and I don't wanna hurt nobody's feelings out there. So, okay, so originally,
Oh, that's
like
good,
I
man.
like I said, originally when it was the cartoon, so in the cartoon he was really goofy. Like he had a gut and had like one big buck tooth and was real stupid, but he had like the Jason chevrons were even on the VHS mask. And when
Let
it
me
came,
can I interrupt you for a moment?
yeah,
So these cartoon elements, which are very much in the short film, I have a few questions about them. One, are they going to be in the full length film?
no, I'm gonna shy away from that in the full length.
Okay. All right. Then it's only us OG fans who are going to get to see them.
Yeah, okay, and here's the true behind the scenes as to why there are even comic book elements in the original
Please
is
tell us.
um when we were shooting it, we had a completely different like vision for the final film, and it became painfully obvious when we were editing that, like I said, we accidentally made Evil Dead 2. Like everything that was supposed to be scary, everything that was supposed to be scary was really, really silly and over the top. And which we knew. I mean, we had to have known when we were shooting it, like the way we were acting and what we were doing, that it wasn't going to cut together scary. There was no way. And so fast forward to us editing, and VHS Mikey, who is the heavyset fellow with the one eye glass in the
Yeah.
movie, he used to be an animator, and he was in fact who was going to animate our cartoon. And he goes, you know, we're having some trouble cutting these scenes together. He goes, what if we do it like Creep Show? And so like the
Oh.
comic book panel will dissolve. And he goes, all you got to do is shoot a cold open with like your son reading a comic book, and we'll just make the movie a comic book. And so the opening to the movie is literally a tribute to Creepshow. There's even a line of dialogue specifically from Creepshow, like, that's why God made fathers, kid. That's why God made fathers. Like after he calls him a wuss or whatever and
Yeah.
threatens to throw away the comic book. So that scene with my son reading the comic book was shot after the fact, like way after the fact, when we're like editing and we're like, this isn't working. What can
Interesting.
what can we do? So we had Mikey draw, we'd send him each opening frame and each ending frame, and he would draw them. And we're like, thank God, it kind of works. It was a savior.
I was going to ask about that later, whether that was like something that somebody actually drew, or if it was like a filter or an AI thing
Oh
on
no, that
top
was
of the photographs.
100% VHS Mikey drew all
Very
of that
nice.
stuff, and he's a very talented guy. And
Fantastic.
and again, that's one of those things of pulling in favors, because he was like, it's just not cutting together. I could draw each frame, And I'm like, I go, that's a lot of drawing. And he goes, yeah, I'm fine. I'll do it. And so he just did it. And I mean, it took a
That
long
is
time.
a lot of drawing. Oh my
And
goodness.
so like every day he would send me a Snapchat and be like, I'm on the 3rd panel. This sucks. I'm on the 6th panel. This sucks. And, but he saved the movie, and I'm thankful for the visual flair that it gave the movie. But, so going back to this mask, this is another. So like I said, I had no money, but I had about 6 months of prep time.
Right.
And so I'm talking to my buddy who's a filmmaker, James Balsamo. He makes a bunch of like schlocky B horror movies. And I said, yeah, I'm getting ready to shoot this movie, Tapehead, but I got to make this VHS mask. And I'd talked to a couple of effects artists, and I had a very distinct vision for the way I wanted the VHS tape. And everyone was saying, well, why would you sculpt that? Just use a real VHS tape. And, and you'd be able to see through it, which is a load of shit, but we'll get to that. And so they said, everyone basically said, just use a real VHS tape. And so I'm talking to James Balsamo, and he goes, I'm working on a movie right now with Hunter Jackson from Guar, and Hunter Jackson makes all their masks.
Oh my God, Guar.
And he goes, so Hunter and I will make you this mask. And I said, well, what do I owe you? And he said, it's free. Don't worry about it. We'll just make you this mask. So I'm all jazzed up thinking James Balsamo and Hunter Jackson from Guar are going to sculpt me this mask. So like every day I'm getting the wardrobe and everything. And I'm messaging him, hey, you got a picture? Like, have you started working on it? Soon, man, soon. And he never, ever, 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 ever sends me a picture of this mask. 2 days before shooting, a fucking like priority mailbox shows up. It's a VHS tape with like wood glue glued to a pair of welder goggles, and that's all it is.
God.
That's it.
Oh wow.
And
I mean,
and I look at it and I go, what the fuck? I got like 48 hours. What the fuck? So it didn't have the nose groove cut out of it. So I'm like, all right, bust out the Dremel. I cut the nose groove out. I put the slime on it. We aged it, tried to age it. And that's what we used in the first movie. But here is the kicker. If you wore the mask plain faced, you could kind of see through the like the spool windows. You could kind of see, but you could only see left to right. You could not see directly in front of you. But when Dylan put on the silicone hood and then this, he was completely blind. So every time he's killing someone is just under the camera, like pushing his butt towards them or turning him, because he could not see at all.
I was wondering if that was going on, because like, if I was just, completely ignorant viewer, I would have no idea. But as someone who knows, a bit about the production of films, that was my guess, is like, I'm going to guess that the person in this mask is blind and someone is directing them.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. That's amazing.
So with the sequel, the very first thing I addressed is, or the sequel, the new first movie, the very first thing I addressed was, I'm going to melt a hole in this tape. I'm going to give it a melted, like it's been sitting in a grave for 20 years and the plastic is rotting. And so I melted a hole and I kept checking like, oh, can I see? And, so then I had Dylan come try it on. And he was like, this is a game changer. He like put it on and like ran up and down the steps with an axe. He's like, I'm good. I'm going to kill fucking everybody. And I'm like, yeah, that's what's
fantastic. Yeah. My thought about how I would make that, is as someone who's completely ignorant about this kind of thing, is I would take a hot glue gun that has no glue in it, but use it to melt, space inside of the VHS tape.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that.
That's pretty similar to what I did, which my wife is still upset about. I have a wood burning tool and it smells terrible, so you heat it up and I'm melting plastic. So there's just fumes everywhere. And so that's what I used. I would heat this wood burning tool up and put my grooves in the tape and cut the nose out and all that stuff. But yeah, it smelled terrible, and I'll never live that down as long as I live. My wife will be like, "Remember that time you melted that fucking tape in our living room and it stunk?" Yes, I
Well, I
do.
guess I'm fortunate then in that my partner has uh, already done things like that in our living room to make things smell really bad, which means I have some credits racked up
Yes.
for when I do that. Uh, that's great. So tell me a bit about how you directed the actor inside of the mask. Was it just sort of like uh do what you can, like I know you can't see, but like swing your fist in this direction, or was there more about like the character's motivations, or tell us a bit about that.
Okay, so yeah, in the first one, no, like I said, completely green. I had no idea. I'm like, okay, now, like, I would be like, do the cane hotter, meaning like breathe, like heave, like breathe really, and bring your shoulders up when you breathe. Yeah, do the cane, or okay, now snap your head to the right, snap your head to the left. Now move your jaw, so you can tell that that's not just a mask; it's silicone and it bends to your face or whatever. But yeah, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and with this one, with this new film, um, Dylan, I actually encouraged him. I said, I want you to, for every character, what I did was I sat down and I wrote like a 2-paragraph backstory to each character of just, it doesn't even go on screen, but it's just who this person is. And so that each actor could kind of get in that headspace. And I said, I'm not going to do that for you. We know who Jacob Cobb is, but no one will ever be Jacob Cobb. You will always be Jacob Cobb. So I said, I want
Oh, okay.
you write your backstory. And so he wrote like a giant, like way more than 2 paragraphs about
Oh,
how,
wow.
Jacob was brought up on a farm. And so he's very familiar with farm instruments, and very strong because he's mentally handicapped. And for whatever reason, he was a tank. And
I mean, if you're
how
growing
his
on a farm, that makes sense to me that you would be strong. You have a lot of manual labor you need to do.
right, and how his father felt so bad for him not having any human interaction that his father asked his friend who ran this video store to give him a job in the back rewinding these tapes, just so he could have something to do and try to make friends. And then so there's this whole backstory to Jacob being this sweet soul and these kids
Yeah.
destroying him. And so I mean, he he was never the bad guy, but now he is. And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of fun to watch him, like, with his eyes, because we gave him these yellow contacts. And so when you get
Oh,
close
fun.
and you look into the hole in the mask, he can look really sympathetic, but then he can also like furrow the brow and look like he's going to destroy you. And he actually gets these ranges of emotion, even though he's all rotten and slimy and nasty.
That's fantastic. Okay. Pause for a few seconds.
Sure.
Okay. I'd really like to go use the restroom real quick, and then we can resume. Also, when I get back, I think we'll talk more about the upcoming movie. And also, this has been super great. Thank you so much.
No problem, man.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. All right. So one thing I'm really interested in looking forward to is watching, a double feature back to back of your original Tapehead movie and the new one that's coming out in, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say June 2023.
Yeah, I think that's what we're projecting, because we haven't officially started editing yet, and I think we're gonna wait until November 1st and start editing, so we can kind of focus on Halloween for the kids and everything. And then because I got 2 kids, so once Halloween is done, then we can kind of lock ourselves in the dungeon and edit all day, every day.
Absolutely fair. Although I won't be surprised if it ends up being pushed back a little bit because for me, Fear of the Unknown was intended to be released in June 2022, and now we're looking at an October release.
Mm.
So, you know, I'll never be surprised when an indie producer pushes things back a little bit, and I'll also not be offended by that.
Sometimes it happens, man. But you know,
Yeah.
we made the mistake last time. Like I said, we shot the very first weekend of June, and before we even rolled, I said it'll be out on Halloween, which is very, very ambitious. And so we shot in 4 days, and then we edited. And like I said, Mikey had to draw all those frames, and so there was a lot of technical hoopla that went on, and you know, we barely had it ready by October 31st. And as a result, there are things in it, like a few misspellings and whatnot in the comic book panels, because there was no time to go back and do a final edit. Like that edit was like, well, good enough. You know what I mean? Like it had to be, because I'm an idiot and said on Halloween it would be ready. So
Yeah, God, that's such a short time frame. Good
really,
gracious, 4 days. Well, I guess 4 days for the shooting and then like another 20 or something for the editing. But still, that's incredible.
yeah, it was super taxing. I'll tell you that. Like it felt like every single minute had something to do with Tapehead. And now as a result of getting done with that first one and
Yeah.
putting it in festivals and it doing surprisingly well, which kind of we were like, holy crap, okay, we're winning awards. So that's when we were like, what if we do it for real? And it really like motivated us. And so I spent every single day, I would have a little window from like 10 a.m. to about 3 where I could write. So I would sit and I would write and I would have no distractions. And then after that, you know, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a whatever. I got to, do all this other stuff. So,
Relatable.
so I would write when I had the chance, and, I would send the pages to Dylan, who plays Tapehead, and I'd say, what do you think of this? And he was really kind of like my guy to bounce things off of. I would say, does this sound real? Like I really, really wanted the dialogue to be smart. Like I wanted it to be smart, but also like dumb enough that like that anyone could say it, because it was one of those things where I had to write using different voices for people because I didn't want everyone to be a cardboard cutout of the exact same person. But I knew some of the people I was going to cast weren't necessarily going to be seasoned actors. There are a few in the movie, but like most of them are our buddies or, people who've done like a commercial or whatever. And so I wanted to make sure that anyone could handle the dialogue. I wasn't like, here, now you have a 6-page monologue, where you say a bunch of words you've never said before in your life. So it would just, sound wooden or whatever.
That makes sense. Yeah. Man. So in the short version of Tapehead, you pretty much only cast like your friends, right? Like it was just people you already knew. Whereas in the full-length version of Tapehead, you cast people who are, professional actors. Did you cast anyone who is not a professional actor in that? Like, do you still have your friends in that? Do you have other people?
Yeah. So we went back to the well because we knew that the first Tapehead it's not canon. We knew we were going to keep.
Oh, okay. All right. So they are explicitly like two alternate universe versions of the same story.
Yeah. So we knew there were certain aspects from the original we were going to keep, like how Jacob dies. So we knew we were going to keep the opening
Sure.
For the most part, we're going to keep that. We're going to kind of dumb it down and do, 20 years ago, yada, yada. But all the other actors that were in the first Tapehead, they don't really exist anymore. So they could be new characters. So the hooker who shows her boobs and gets away, she comes back and she plays Monica, the police dispatcher in the new Tapehead film. And
Okay. So using some of the same actors in different roles.
yeah, and so Alfredo, the gravedigger, that actor, his name is Anthony Pond, and him and I grew up together. He also did the poster art for both films. He's an amazing artist looking to break into doing cover art for horror films. And
Send me his contact info. I might want to hire him to do some stuff.
yeah, I definitely will, because he is one talented son of a bitch. But so I had asked him, I said, if we do another one, would you want to play a character? And he said, absolutely. So I have him playing a relatively new officer on the police force named Officer Johnson. And then Officer Pappas, the older officer, is one of my cousins who I used to train mixed martial arts with. He was a lightweight champion for like 4 years. He's a tank of a man. So I had him come in and
Tank at lightweight. Interesting.
yeah, now he's not a lightweight because he's a grown man with a couple kids. But he's real thick and terrifying. But so he plays the seasoned cop, and pretty much I'm trying to think of so my co-host on YouTube, the big redhead guy in the first Tapehead, he comes back, but he plays a redneck named Clem in this new Tapehead, and he just has a little tiny part.
Fair
But
enough.
I brought in Dakota Murrin, who is kind of a local actor who is amazing and is getting ready to be in Heathers the musical, and he's going to play JD, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So I brought him in. I brought in a local actress named Emily Squires, who has done a couple of like commercials and little things, and she plays kind of the party girl Faith. The one thing that I had the most trouble with was casting our lead, which would be my son's older sister in the movie. And her name is Pam in the movie. And we went through probably 3 or 4 different Pams. We would cast someone would be like, yeah, I'm 100% in. I'd send them the script. They'd be all for it. And then they'd be like, oh, you're shooting in this summer? Like, well, I go back to college, so I can't. Or, oh, I am pregnant. Or, oh, whatever. These things kept happening. Or
I gotta be honest, seeing a pregnant protagonist in a slasher movie would be quite something. I've never seen that before.
I would be terrified to hurt the baby, but
okay, that's a fair point.
yeah. So
maybe get a fake pregnant belly, I guess.
right. So we kind of struggled, and then my wife said, I know this girl who she's never acted before, but she has the look you're looking for, and so I think maybe we could ask her. And so I said, sure, who is it? Give me the contact info, and I'll try not to be the creepy old guy like, hey, baby, you want to come act in my movie, or whatever. Like, I don't want to be some fucking weirdo. So I had to preface it like, hey, I'm Megan's husband, and we're getting ready to shoot a film this summer. Would you be interested? And she was. Her name's Zoe Griever, and she'd never acted before other than like a couple of like small community plays here. Sure. And she goes, well, movies are a lot different. Like I think I'd be intimidated. And I said, you've done a play where you cannot fuck up. You can't. You gotta be on every night. Yeah. But here you can have 60 takes burping if you want. I don't care. We'll do it again and until you're comfortable. And so as a result, her being slightly intimidated by the process really worked to our benefit, because the way that we shot the film, we had the luxury of, we'd be like, well, this weekend we're going to shoot only the living room sequences. So everything was out of order, all living room stuff. This next weekend we're going to shoot front yard stuff, or this next weekend we're going to shoot bedroom stuff, or whatever. And so as a result, by the time we got to the end of the film where she kind of gets to have her showdown, she was so like in tune with the character and tough, which plays perfectly. Like in all the takes, starts out kind of mousy and meek, and then becomes a tough, badass final girl. And I was like, I couldn't have asked for anything more. And I keep singing her praises, and I'm like, if you want to act, I guarantee you will get work because you're phenomenal. So
That's fantastic. Speaking of actors, could you talk a little more about the people who played Tapehead and uh, what you want the character to like present and how the actors have done that? Because I believe you've had two different actors, and the your description of them 20 minutes ago or whatever it was, your description of the second one reminded me of the use of uh Derek Mears in the Friday the 13th remake in, I want to say, what was it, 2009?
yeah, oh 09.
Yeah, where the character isn't exactly the same, but instead the actor brings a specific energy with them that that really brings that character to life.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is their passion about the original character. And so I feel like you're sort of doing that same thing in miniature, where you've got, the original version, and instead of having, an entire 10 or 12 or however many freaking Friday the 13th movies there were, um, which, I love the Friday the 13th series. But like, um, instead of having this whole like arc of all of these different versions of the character to follow, the new actor is just immediately following up on the original.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious, like, what were you really looking for from the actor, from the character, out of the original, and what are you looking like, having learned all of those lessons, what are you looking for now out of the new actor?
Mm. Okay, so it's been the same it's been the same actor through both films, but with the two different looks. And like I said, with the first film, since he was blind, he 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 really couldn't he couldn't do anything too physical. He couldn't, which was, that was my bad. Like I literally blind this guy, and I'm like, you're the monster. Good luck, So with this second movie, with this new one, with him being able to see, and we really sat down and we just kind of talked about the amount of menace that is involved. um I don't want, like, you're not sneaky, you're not quiet, you are a tank, you are a shark. Like, you see your prey, you go for your prey. And there's this whole new level of anger. It's almost like he's angry that he's alive again. And the way that Dylan did that is, he would put the costume on, and we were fortunate enough that all of this, his costume is silicone, which still doesn't breathe, but it's not like he's covered head to toe in prosthetics for 12 hours. So we could put him in the costume, and as soon as we're like done with a take, or we're like, all right, man, are you hot? And he'd be like, yeah, you know, because he's 44, I believe. The actor who plays Tapehead is 44, and he's a giant man. But we were able to get him out of that costume very quickly so that he could rehydrate and hang out in between takes, as opposed to being covered in all this gear. But we just had these conversations of how we wanted him to be, and really, really, like, the aggression in the moves, and this, like, okay, like, when you hear something over there, you don't, you snap. And he's got this really, like, intense vibe about him where you should be afraid of him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
Yeah.
want you to go, woohoo. I want you to go, oh, Jesus, just a little bit of, like, I don't want to mess with that guy. And that's a
Yeah.
very like it's a very delicate line to walk because horror and comedy are so close anyway that
Yes.
we knew at any moment we would be in danger of tipping that scale and making it too silly. Like the perfect example, which I already brought up, the Hatchet films, and you said you're a fan of the Hatchet films, is when you watch the Hatchet films, those characters, they are the comedy element. They're fun. They're likable. Victor Crowley is never funny. You don't ever look at Victor Crowley and go, ha ha, ha. You look at him and you go, run, get the fuck out of there. Like, and that's very
Yeah.
important to not make Tapehead, riding a skateboard and going, ha ha, ha bitch, like don't do that.
Oh,
Like,
God. That was, I mean, that sounded very much like a perfect Robert England impression, Freddy Krueger.
thank
The
you.
bitch. Is that what you were going for?
Yeah, absolutely. That's, it's a very delicate thing. And I, as much as I love Freddy Krueger, there comes a point when he is a yo-yo and, he is a talking plush doll. And, um, I like those films, but I'm not so much in the camp of like, I don't want to watch that all the time. Every once in a while, I'm fine with the fun, slapsticky Krueger, but most of the time, I want to be like, he used to rape little kids, man. That's a scary dude. Like, you know what I mean? I want to be afraid of that
Yeah.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned the actor sweating inside of the costume, which reminded me of like just a weird thing. Michael Berryman, the actor,
Hmm.
uh, who was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and more significantly, The Hills Have Eyes. And he's a really unusual looking, performer.
Hmm.
And one of and the reason he's unusual looking is because he has quite a few different, like genetic things that cause him to look unusual. And one of those things is that he literally cannot sweat.
That's
And
crazy.
so,
I did not know that.
oh yeah, no, he cannot sweat. He also doesn't have any like fingernails or anything. Um, he has like multiple different genetic things going on. And so when they were filming the Hills Have Eyes, which is filmed in a very sunny, hot environment, they had to
Hmm.
be like misting him down the whole time. And like he was in danger of heat stroke throughout the entire
Oh
shoot,
yeah. Yeah. I'd imagine.
which is completely the opposite of his character, who, you know, lives in that environment and
Hmm.
thrives within it. But, uh, and so, um, that just came to mind to me as uh, you have these actors in these unusual circumstances, running around doing things when they, as you described, they can't see,
Hmm.
or they're in other situations where they're, physically restricted in some really significant ways. And so I just was wondering, like, do you have any particular stories or anything particular crazy where you had to where either something really funny happened or where you really had to try to protect your actors from the physical circumstances or anything like that?
Well, okay. So yeah, we definitely learned our lesson, after making the first film because, in the first film, we would get Dylan in his costume, which, in the first film, he's not wearing silicone sleeves. He just has a silicone hood. And, we'd put him in the costume and, sometimes.
Which, if I can interrupt, that silicone hood had some incredible like articulation. Like it was much more movable. Like there were several scenes where I thought, like, okay, this character should move in this way, but they're probably not going to be able to because like that silicone hood isn't going to be that well articulated. And then they did, and I was blown away. Like
Yeah,
that's so impressive. That's so well made.
it is
So
it's very good. And but the bad thing about it is, because we were so inexperienced, we would put him in the costume and we'd be like, "You good?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, I'm good." And we'd be like, "Okay, we got, these 8 setups to shoot and then we'll get you." So we're shooting and we're not realizing that it's the first weekend of June and it's 110 degrees outside and we're in an abandoned vet clinic in a small town, and we
Oof.
have no air condition, because you can't have air condition when you're shooting because it picks up on the microphone and ruins takes. So as the day, we'd start at 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and it would be nice and cool, but there's 16, 17 of us in this building that's getting baked. And eventually, we're
An
all
hour
hot.
and 20 minutes later, assuming, like maximally efficient
Yeah.
takes.
And so,
Oh God.
Dylan, I think if I remember correctly, he was 215 when we started the movie. And the Sunday we wrapped, when he went home and weighed himself, he was like in the 190s. Like he had lost so much water weight
Oh
from
my
where,
God.
um, and
He's like a race car driver.
yeah, because we were completely negligent in the fact that, we weren't making sure he was hydrated. We weren't keeping him out of that costume as much as humanly possible. With this film, um, we were very cautious. Like, okay, because I think he put on another like 20 pounds of muscle for this movie, so he even got bigger.
God
and
damn.
and he's so big, and
He already looked fucking huge in the original. So
the thermal is like tearing because it was all weathered and aged anyway. But every time he would like flex, so he's wearing a thermal and coveralls and silicone. But like we'd be like, okay, cut, and we'd peel that crap off him. When I'd hand him 2 ice cold bottles of water, I'd be like, drink this now, sit down. Like we were
make sure
very
you
like,
get some electrolytes too.
yeah, we were taking care of him, and granola bars and protein and all the Gatorade on the planet and Pedialyte, and like, because I used to be a professional fighter, so I'm very like aware of what it does to your body when you cut weight. So um, he was on top of it, and every time we'd be like, "Have you had anything to drink in the past 10 minutes?" He'd be like, "No." We're like, "All right, sit down, drink this." How you feeling? Are you cramping? Are you sore? Like we were all over him, and so.
Man, that's a much healthier experience than a lot of people I've interacted with in this regard. Where, have you had anything to drink in the last 10 minutes? No, would result in like, here's a shot of vodka. But
No, not a chance.
no,
And that
I'm really glad to hear that you've been taking such responsible care of your actors. That's a really good thing that a lot of like even much higher budget productions don't do a good job of. Uh,
yeah,
so
I,
good
I
on
think
you.
I think that that's very, very important, is to you want to have a healthy environment for everybody, because we're all hanging out and we're all making this for the labor of love and having a good time, and you don't want anyone to get sick or hurt or not have enough to drink or eat. That should never be an issue. And it's the same thing with like bathrooms. Like there should be bathrooms, there should be like places for people to go to like not be around everybody. And we tried really hard to make sure that we were able to do that. And one of the things
Good.
is, a few weeks ago, we actually flew in Drew Marvick, who is the writer, director, and actor of Pool Party Massacre, because he had reached out to me every time I would post something on Facebook and I would say like, I'm working on this new movie, blah, blah, blah. He would always be like the first to like it, the first to comment. And one day out of the blue, he messaged me and he said, "Hey, if you have a part for me in this movie, I would love to come out and be in your movie." And so I kind of told him like, "I'm not sure I'm qualified to direct you, yada, yada." And he ended up coming out and having a little bit part in our movie. But we were shooting in an alley. And I told him like, this alley that we're shooting in is behind the local movie theater, and my wife and I are very, very good friends with the people who run the theater, so they've given us the key to unlock the back. We had like a table with craft services set up. They have their own bathroom. I'm like, if you need a place to change, you need something to drink, you need to go to the bathroom, like it's all taken care of. And even he said like, man, that's like more than a lot of these indie films that I go and work on. We'll be out in the middle of a desert, and we'll be doing like a 9-hour day and there won't be a porta potty out there. Like, well, where am I supposed to go to the bathroom? And the director will be like, I didn't think of that. Like,
Well,
you
you're
know,
in the middle of the desert. Just find
yeah,
a place that's off screen.
yeah. But like it's a weird thing. I also think that since my wife is a professional photographer and she's very good with people, and
Yeah.
I'm very socially awkward. I have a really hard time like getting out of my shell. That she kind of she has
Could
a
have fooled
knack.
me.
I'm totally different when a camera's not on. I'm like super quiet and like, oh God, I hope everybody likes me. Um,
Well, I like you.
I appreciate that. So, but yeah, I'm not real good at like that aspect, like the PR aspect, I suppose. And my wife is very like caring, and so my wife will be like, before we shoot, like we hash everything out before crew and actors get there, and she'll be like, okay, now, she's definitely like the voice of reason. Be like, make sure that you do this for everybody, make sure you do this for everybody, make sure you're checking on everybody, and I'm like, okay, like we really work together, this perfect like yin and yang of um this weird ball of creative juice, I guess. I don't know.
Awesome. Yeah, so you mentioned the director of Pool Party Massacre, which I noticed that so your original movie is available on YouTube
Hmm.
and Pool Party Massacre is available on Tubi. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts about like digital distribution, streaming, that kind of thing,
Mm.
because like I've interviewed a lot of different people who have wildly different opinions about this. Like some people are all like, yeah, I'll put it on every platform I can. Some people are like, oh, well, I have this one platform that I like and I'm only going to put it there. And some people are like, I'm not going to put it on any platforms at all. The
Hmm.
only way you can watch this is to buy the DVD,
Yeah.
which I mean, personally, I really like it when it's available streaming because that's just much more convenient for me. But I do understand why, the people who really care about physical media like that. So I want to hear why you chose to put the original version of Tapehead on YouTube and what you plan on doing with the full version of it. And why the original version of Tapehead has more than one disclaimer in it saying like don't fucking pirate this or we'll arrest and then kill you. Mild exaggeration, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. So as far as the first movie being on YouTube, we never had any intention of that. It was, um, since our whole shtick is the video store, and
Right.
we really, really try hard to keep that culture alive. Like, I literally have, I don't know, 6,000 movies in this room. Like I have
Wait, like VHS format?
I have VHS, Blu-ray, DVD. I just have a
Okay.
massive
Okay.
library.
Okay, I need to interrupt you for a minute. We can get back to that question earlier because I do want to know the answer. But before we do, um physically, where are you located? Just
Uh, I'm in Iowa.
you're in Iowa. Okay. All right. Because like I try to keep track of people who are, maintaining impressive VHS libraries.
Mhm.
And I don't know anyone in Iowa who's doing it so far. So
I will s
awesome.
I will send you a video when we're done with this.
Heck
There's a
yeah,
video
man.
on YouTube called "I Built My Own Video Store," 3B video. That is it shows it's an older tour of down here, but it is a tour of down here.
Hell
Um,
yeah. My
s
my next door neighbor who literally just moved in like 2 weeks ago is a VHS collector. And
Nice.
so yeah, I gave him as a housewarming gift, I gave him a VHS copy of the musical Cats,
Nice.
which is based on I don't know if you're familiar with Cats very much, but it's based on the play Cats, which is based on the collection of poems, Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats, which was written by the poet T.S. Eliot, who is my uncle.
Whoa, nice.
Yeah, his name is Thomas Stearns Eliot. I'm Thomas Johann Eliot, and uh, yeah, so
That's wild, man.
that's what he said too. Uh, yeah, no, I love watching what people think about the different like media, the different like physical formats of um film versus video
Mhm.
versus like digital, but it's on DVD versus digital, but it's on streaming, etc. And so yeah, so like I've talked with people who only deal in film or only deal in digital or only deal in digital and it's available, you know, for purchase on DVD
Yeah,
versus like I have a guy who I've interviewed, Lynn Kabasinski. Are you familiar with him?
I do not think so.
No, okay. Well, you should check out his stuff. He's a he mostly does action films, but his stuff's great. He's been doing stuff for like 20 years now. Who he's and or sorry, he's been doing things for like 17 years, and in that time, he's done like 20 films.
Woo, nice.
Yeah. Um, but nowadays, his stuff, the first distribution, like if you want to see his stuff as soon as you can, you have to subscribe to his Patreon,
Mm, smart.
which I
I like that.
do.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I interviewed him back in July of 2022. Um, but in any case, you were talking about the director of Pool Party Massacre, which is available on Tubi. So tell me, what are your plans for the distribution? Your, you know, ideal hopes, your, you know, minimum, what you're guaranteed to do. Tell me
Ah,
about that range.
all right. So, um, I was talking about the video store culture, and so I'm like, I don't want to be like I'm 100% against streaming because that would make me a hypocrite because I have Netflix and Amazon Prime and Shutter or Shutter, whatever you want to say.
Fucking love Shutter.
I do. I'm waiting for them to sponsor me. Go ahead, anytime. But
Shutter, if you're listening, come
yeah,
on, man.
hook it up.
Great opportunity for an exclusive here, right?
Yes, absolutely. So, but I didn't. I you know I so I do support streaming in some aspects. But when we put out the first Tapehead, we were very adamant. There was supposed to be a VHS release, which VHS Mikey was going to handle, and
Ooh,
I'm not sure whatever happened with that. It just
I
never
mean,
never came to fruition. So,
I got to be
um,
honest, that sounds physically difficult to fulfill.
right,
Like, I mean, if you'd made that same request 20 years ago, like the materials to do that were much more available back then, and nowadays they're just
yeah,
they're teaks.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. So so we never did a VHS release, and but we were so like we're not gonna put it on any platform, not YouTube, nothing. And we hit the 1 year anniversary of the day we wrapped, and I was just feeling very nostalgic. It was June 6th, I believe, and I was just like, it's been 1 year since we sweat our asses off and fought to make this. So I called my buddy that does the YouTube channel with me, and I said, would it hurt your feelings if I put this on YouTube? He said, fuck it, go ahead. So then I asked my wife, would this make me seem like a hypocrite if I put this on YouTube? And she said, no, go ahead. So we put it up on YouTube for free. And then, I mean, obviously, if you want a physical copy, you can still buy it through our web store. But we knew in June that we were already gearing up to shoot this new one. And it just seemed fair to give it away for free on YouTube. But as far as this new one goes, it will most likely not be streaming anywhere. It will be a Blu-ray, a DVD, and if I can handle it, I'll figure out a way to do a VHS run, a very limited VHS run. But um, I believe I'll distribute it myself and kind of PT Barnum it, go from like convention to convention, and you know, hey, check out our movie, yada yada type of deal. Put it in festivals. End all be all. If I could pick distribution, I would really lean into Scream Team releasing. They put out a lot of indie horror. They put out The Barn by Justin Seaman, which is one of my all-time favorite horror films. They put out Dude Bro Party Massacre 3, which is hilarious.
Freaking love that movie.
It's awesome, right? And so, but they're a very small, little indie company, but they know,
Is that the same or is that different from like Scream Factory?
they're different. Yeah, it's a different
Okay.
company. Scream Team releasing, and the stuff they put out is all quality, but it's all micro budget or low budget films that have a ton
If
of
you can,
heart.
you can link me to their stuff, I will include it in the description of this video because that sounds amazing.
Yeah, they're wonderful, and they take indie films. So I'm kind of talking with them right now about like what they would expect from a release, and figuring that stuff out. Not saying that I am being distributed by them, but that's where I would go if I could go anywhere other than me doing it myself. So yeah, I really like those guys, and they feel like a perfect fit for us. But if it doesn't work out, it's going to be a lot of me lugging around DVDs and Blu-rays and going to conventions and shaking hands and slanging discs.
Well, that's incredibly familiar for me.
Yep, that's how you got to do it, man. I mean,
Absolutely.
and the thing that I've noticed a lot, we've done a couple of little conventions here and there, is it's mainly kids. Kids that are like under 14 are the ones that come up to the booth and want to look at the mask and want to talk to you about the movie. And I want to make a movie too. And and I love listening to these kids, be like, how did you make a movie with no money? Well, I got all my dumb friends together and sweat for, and I'm like, you can do it too. I promise you can do it. And I love that. And then the kids will like drag their parents over, and then their parents will be like, so you want to make a movie now? And the kids will be like, yeah. And I'm like, see dad, let your kid make a movie. It's fun. Like, I promise, and I love that. So
Yeah, and I would say like now more than ever, it's just easy to let your kids make a movie because like I know when I was a kid, I made movies, and I had to have the camcorder plugged into my VCR by a cable, and so if I wanted to record my backyard, the cable had to go out the window, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh god, I think I even have there. Here's the physical camcorder.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah. So like this is a piece of junk compared to like, my modern even just cell phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the deal is, if you're creative enough, you shouldn't be hindered by what tools you don't have. Don't look at tools like, man, I would make a movie, but I don't have X. I don't have this. I don't have that. Make one anyway. Make something that sucks. Like, make something shitty and look at it and show all your friends, and then do better the next time and better the next time. And that's,
oh my god. Okay, you inspired several different thoughts in my head just by saying that. I'm gonna say like, so make something that sucks. That is great advice for someone who's never made anything before. And your second thing, that reminds me of that great line from Ed Wood, the biopic of the director Ed Wood, where he says like, what's that? It's the worst film you've ever seen? Well, my next one will be better.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
What is it? Well, this graveyard's obviously a phony. That that tombstone fell right over. You got to think about the big picture, which I say all the time. You got to think about the big picture. So, yeah, definitely make something that sucks. Like the biggest thing is, I have a lot of people who message me and they're like, hey man, I have an idea for a movie. You should make it. Why? Why should I make it? Like, why don't you get your,
you should make it.
Yeah, get your friends together and do the same thing I did. Like, was it hard? Yeah. Did it suck? Yeah. Was like everything that could go wrong? Yeah. But you know what? At the end of the tunnel, we had a movie. Like, that's so definitely like just shoot anything, something, and yeah, get better.
Fantastic. Which leads very much into the last question that I like to ask everyone that I interview. What do you see as being the future of indie micro budget cinema? Like, what do you think is going to be the next big thing? Or what do you, I mean, quote unquote, big, or like, what do you think is going to really help people who don't have a budget, don't have experience, but have the passion and have the time and their friends, and they can make something? What do you think is going to really make things different in the next 10 years
Mm,
versus the previous 10 years?
gotcha. Okay, so one of the things that I've been following very closely
Yeah.
is Unreal Engine and
Oh, interesting.
the
Like, so like 3D graphics.
yeah, and the use of Unreal Engine in production. There's a great YouTube channel out there called Film Riot, and they show you how to do all kinds of crazy little Hollywood effects and whatnot. And so basically, they did like their very own condensed version of Mandalorian. Like, so the Mandalorian, for anyone listening who doesn't know, like, I'm not a Star Wars guy, but they use a big stage with a big wraparound screen where they input all of their backgrounds and stuff. It's not green screened; it's these live action backgrounds.
It's like having a giant television behind the actors.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with Unreal Engine, you're able to do that at home in your very own living room, where you can create your digital. Say you live in uh, Hawaii, but you really want to shoot something in the snow. You could build an Unreal Engine very easily. Like, it's almost dummy proof. Like, pick your assets and build out your set, and then you can literally be standing in these very photorealistic environments. So I think that
Oh,
probably within the
well,
next 10
wait a
years.
second. Sorry, I need to interrupt you there because I don't understand. Because, like, in that case, they're standing in front of like a literal television screen. That's like, if you were there on the set on that day, with no After Effects, no special effects
Right.
in place, you would see that same background because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
being displayed on the television set. So what is the at home version of this that you mean?
So at the at home version, which what they do on Film Riot is they run their computer uh, into their camera, and then they run out of the camera into a TV for Video Village, a monitor. So you, as the actor, if you're looking at that monitor, can see that environment around you. You can see like the cliff, or you can see the trees, or um, so you're not necessarily standing in the environment, but you can see and interact with the environment if you look at the monitor. So um, very like DIY version of the Mandalorian that can be done for next to nothing. And Unreal Engine is a free software, so if you have a relatively decent computer, you can run it. And obviously, the better your computer, the better it can handle it. But there's so many practical applications for the use of Unreal Engine that I've never even dabbled in it remotely. I've done some rear projection stuff as tests and things of that nature, which I absolutely love. Very Hitchcock. I love rear projection, but I think within the next 10 years, like,
Wait, have you
or
actually been using rear projection? Because I freaking love rear
yeah,
projection, and
oh
I
yeah,
never use these days.
yeah. I tried to use some rear projection. I tried to use a very small amount of stop motion. All the things that I grew up
Oh
on.
my god. Okay, where did you use stop motion? Because I love stop motion. If you listen to my it isn't out at the time of this recording, but by the time this episode becomes live, you could listen to my episode with the HP Lovecraft Historical Society, who made their black and white and including stop motion version of the Call of Cthulhu,
Nice.
which is just amazing. And
Mm,
they're the ones that I was talking about earlier who refuse to release anything on streaming. So you can only watch their movies if you buy the DVD of it.
nice.
And like it's worth it, man. Their stuff is incredible. If you like old black and white films and you like stop motion, anything like that, you need to watch this because they are the
Nice.
only people I know doing that kind of work in the present. And so, to my eye, stop motion is fantastic. So, I would love to know, where did you use stop motion?
Okay, so I used some stop motion. I made a little promo when we announced that Tapehead was coming back. It's not on YouTube. I had only posted it on Facebook, so I'll
Oh,
dig it
okay.
up and I'll send it to you. But
Please do, because I want
wh-
to watch it.
what it is just it's a short little video of his mask laying there, and there's all these maggots, and the maggots were silicone maggots. So I stop motion animated all these maggots crawling
Ah,
around and going into the eye hole. Um, so we have some shots with the maggots in this feature, and so we did a little, you know, not anything crazy, not like a large sequence of stop motion, but I wanted the maggots to move, so that's how we did it. And rather than get real maggots, which would have cost me, 85 cents, but I thought I want to do stop motion because I want to. So, you know,
I was gonna say the way I would do that is just record with the real maggots and then like spend quite a while very strenuously cleaning everything
right.
afterwards.
Yeah, no, I had these silicone maggots and I was like, well, I'm just going to do this. So
It's
frame by
fucking
frame by
wild. I
frame by
love it.
frame. And yeah, so yeah, that's my stop motion story.
That's incredible. Oh, it's fantastic. I've never even heard about people doing that before. I love it.
Nice.
Oh man. So this has gone over time. I think this might be the longest interview I've done on this
Oh Lord.
show.
See, I told you I could ramble. I apologize.
No, oh, dude, no need to apologize. I have loved it. I think you're about 10 minutes past the previous record. So, which was Brian Patrick O'Toole, who's the screenwriter of Evolution and Basement Jack and producer of a bunch of films, including Dog Soldiers. Have
Nice.
you
I
ever
love
watched that?
Dog Soldier. Yeah, I love that movie. I just had it on the other day. That
Oh,
was
yeah, man.
that's one of my movies when I'm like, this is another prime example of not a lot of money, but a lot of heart, you know?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. So if you want some insights into the production of that, listen to my first interview. That guy was my first interview on this channel. So
Nice.
um yeah, so I've had a great time. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Uh and tell us again when the full film version of a tape head is coming out.
We're shooting for May or June, somewhere in that area. So we have plenty of cushion to edit
Of
and,
2023.
yeah, 2023. So,
Yes.
and if you need to be on the up and up with that, you can find me on Facebook at Dustin Matson. You can find me on Instagram at Dustin Matson 3B. You can find us on YouTube at 3B Video. And if you want to listen to us rant and ramble, bi-weekly podcast on all podcast apps is the Deep Cut podcast, where we have no shortage of bullshit to discuss. So you will find all the inside info you want about Tapehead or any other dumb shorts or what movies we watched and blah, blah, blah. All that's PR hoopla.
Fantastic. And so I look forward to watching that movie. And I also look forward to talking to you again after I get to watch that movie and analyze it and then ask you a bunch of questions about it in what is that going to be like 10 months, 8
Yeah,
months, something
something like
like
that.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. I look forward to coming back and having you tell me I screwed up and I did a bad job.
I kind of doubt that's going to happen. Like, given that with no experience and no budget and using completely amateur actors, you still manage to produce something that's so high quality as the Tapehead 45-minute short that you made. I would be pretty surprised if the full version doesn't turn out at least as good.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
Oh man, one last question before we leave.
Sure.
You used a bunch of fake blood in that movie, in the
Mhm.
short. What was the formula you used for all that fake blood?
Okay, so this is different. Okay, so a lot of guys like to use corn syrup,
Right.
and which is
That's what I've
sticky
used.
and impossible to clean up. Uh,
No, I mean, water works pretty well
well,
to clean it up.
and but it'll stain, and so there's what I like to do is I don't know if you've ever heard of thick water. Do you know what thick water is?
No, I don't know what that is.
Okay, so you can buy it on Amazon. It's called Dysphagia Aid, and it's for like nursing homes where people have trouble swallowing regular liquids. So it's like a thickener. It's like a powder you put in water, and it'll make it thicker. But it'll still taste like water. You can put it in anything, Mountain Dew, whatever, tea,
Okay.
and it almost has like a dare I say like a semen esque consistency to it. It's kind of gummy and gnarly, but it's water, so it washes right off and doesn't stain. So we like to make our blood with thick water and our red and blue and a little bit of green food coloring, and it works like a charm and cleans up flawlessly. So doesn't stain clothes or anything of that nature. So
That sounds amazing. The thing I was most impressed by, in terms of like the blood effects, when watching the Tapehead short, was how like stringy it was, where you'd
mhm.
like have two, like, two halves of an organ that get pulled apart, and there were these bloody ropes connecting them. That was just incredible. And
Yeah.
so yeah, like I just looked this up on Amazon while you were talking, and there's like 30 different things, and none of them look like they're what you're talking about. So I hope you'll send me
Yeah, I'll
a
send
link.
you for sure. Yeah, it's just a dysphagia aid, and it's like a jug of powder, and you just put in a little bit of powder, stir it up, and boom.
Fantastic. Uh, thank you so much. I look forward to talking with you again, at the very latest when your next movie comes out,
Yep.
and maybe even before then.
All right, I'm always around, so
All
anytime you need
right.
me.
Absolutely. Peace out.
Peace.